Well, I'm glad to be here, and it's a weighty kind of obligation for me to be the first speaker for the Bruins talk. Dr. Land contacted me, and he didn't really tell me all of what to expect, and the 60 plus people and the video and everything else. And also, I guess as soon as I got my PhD, I forgot how to talk in less than 15 minutes. So it's going to be a challenge, but it's one that I'm up for. So I guess my goal here is really just to give you an appetizer on some ideas, some things that are going on college campuses, in the community, not just with students, but also with faculty, staff, administrators of color, some of their experiences. And I will do that with some of the research that I've done. Also give you some personal examples. So if I do it successfully and stimulate you enough, you'll have enough to talk about at the end of the presentation or the conversation, and then there'll be some questions that you'll, I guess, handle in small groups. So just to begin, part of what drives me is this thing about standing up for people, speaking up for people, and then acting. Those are three important concepts that I carry with me all the time, irrespective of what situations I find myself in. If somebody is facing some kind of oppression, if they're facing hard times, I try to stand up for them. I try to speak for them if I can, and then I try to act more appropriately on their behalf if I'm in a position to do that. All right, so that kind of is what drove me throughout my academic and professional career. But just to give you a little bit more about my early years, I was born in Ingalls Memorial Hospital in Harvey, Illinois. It's just south of Chicago. Segregated hospital with a name like William Smith. And at the time, for those who are African American in the room, you know, sometimes we can have babies, and the babies are born a little light skinned, and real light, then they kind of darken up, you know, after a year or so. So I was one of those kids. So when my father, William Smith, went to look for me, he couldn't find me in the Negro ward. He found me in the white baby ward. So that's the hospital that I was born in Markham, Illinois, is where I grew up most of my life. Again, that's just south of Chicago. And Markham was a place where they recruited African Americans out of the city of Chicago to give them that suburban life. And it was also during the time when we had a lot of riots going on in major cities. And this was kind of the upward mobile black population who were looking to leave the city and have that nice, you know, acreage of yards and activities for their children. So we had arts, we had people who were gardening and community gardens early on. I was also a member of the first African American Little League State Baseball Championship. So if you want a little bit of history, I was one of those members and also was able to hit a home run to help us win the state championship. In addition, I was a Boy Scout, right? So I'm trying to paint a picture of what a black male might look like for some people, beyond the stereotypes that we hold. So in the Boy Scouts, all my life, Cub Scouts, Pueblo Scouts, Boy Scouts. So you could tell I love Markham, right? Markham was my home, but it also gave me a sense of identity. It gave me a sense of belonging. It gave me something in some place where I could feel secure, safe, that I didn't believe anybody was going to harm me. So I had a healthy identity, okay? And most of that came from, obviously, my parents, right? My mother was an elementary or middle school teacher for 31 years and in the city of Chicago, and retired with her sanity. Now, to retire out of Chicago public schools with your sanity is a hard task, right? But she got out in 31 years and had her sanity for the most part and was happy in her career. My father was one of the bodyguards for Martin Luther King. After Dr. King's assassination, he was chief of security for Operation Breadbasket Reverend Jesse Jackson's program. So again, healthy identity, but what having my father be a member of the police force for Dr. King taught me was that racism is wrong. Because outside of my community, I didn't know, or well, really inside, I was in a bubble, I was protected. I didn't really have to experience that overt kind of racism. But when we left Markham, when we left certain parts of Chicago, then this is what we encountered. So being born in a segregated hospital, seeing and experiencing racism, all right, is kind of what shaped my identity as a scholar, as a student, as somebody who wanted to make social change. All right, so what do? We have to prepare ourselves to be a change agent. All right, so that's what my motivating drive was through my whole, even early in high school. All right, these are the things that I saw because I was bused out of my neighborhood to a predominantly white high school, and that's where we saw some of our encounters with racism as well. So I want you to walk with me for a moment in my shoes through my academic or my professional development, all right? So I want you to interact. This is an opportunity for you to choose the story that you need me to share with you. Now, this isn't the regular racism or racial microaggressions that most black folks go through. Being followed in the store, waitresses or waiters not wanting to wait on you. They think that you're cheap. Those type of things. These aren't those stories. These are some pretty interesting, so you can't fail no matter what you choose. So let me hear what you want. Pick a picture. Wonder Woman? First one, all right. Now, that happens to be my professional career. When I came to Utah, right? Coming from Chicago, I dealt with, research on stress. But when I came here, I said, these people, they don't honk their horns. They don't leave. If the light turns green, they stay there. And if they don't turn left, nobody honks. In Chicago, the horns would be blowing. People would give you the finger, all type of things, right? Call you everything but the child of God. So when I got here, I said, I need to chill. My work is on stress. I need to just relax, right? If they don't move that quickly, it's okay. I'll get there. I'll be on time. So the Wonder Woman story is, I have a colleague who also works at the University of Utah, a white female. She was in her last year of her doctoral program when I started my doctoral program at the University of Illinois. Now, we had a breakfast meeting, and we were finishing up our breakfast meeting. I said, I'll drive you home. She lived right up below the Capitol, really. So as we're driving, I'm going up the hill, and I see a police officer, all right? And the police officer in the car, and he's telling us. And I don't say anything to her, but I noticed that. And if you're black, you keep your speed at least 5 miles per hour below the speed limit. Keep both hands on the steering wheel. So I did that. And so I pulled over to her house, and that's when I tell her name is Audrey Thompson, Dr. Audrey, she tells the same story. I said, Audrey, the police are getting out their car. So one on my side has his gun out, right, like this, and he's walking. The one on her side has his hand on a gun, right? So walking up to the car, and she jumps out like Wonder Woman, all right? Now, if you black, a white woman jumps out of your car with the police, one holding a gun. All I said, God, please don't let him shoot me. God, please don't let him shoot me. I thought I was dead, all right? Later on, she goes to say that she tried to use her whiteness to diffuse the situation, but she never had been in that situation. Even her husband thought she was crazy, right? So she jumps out, she asks the question. She said, what's the problem? Ma'am, are you all right? She says, what's the problem, officer? Ma'am, are you all right? They asked 4 times. She said, I'm Dr. Thompson, that's Dr. Smith. He's dropping me off at my house. What's the problem? We noticed he parked a little far from the curb. And she looks down, I'm this far, right? So she knew that it wasn't legitimate, right? So I'm nervous. Now think what's going on in my body. My research is on what's called racial battle fatigue, and we don't have time to talk about that. But you can imagine, my heart rate is going up, my pulse rate is going up. Do I want to eat? Nah. Do I want to be amorous with my wife? Nah. Do I want to call my children and say I love? No. I'm in fear of my life. And this happens too often. All right? So that's the Wonder Woman story, and it happens to people of color more than you think. Okay? So, there's all kind of microaggressions that go on. Most microaggressions are targeted to non-dominant identities. Non-dominant identities. So, if you are poor, it could be targeted at your class status. If you are in a minority religion, it could be targeted at your religiosity. All right? It could be targeted at your gender. Any non-dominant type of identity that you hold. For the purposes of our conversation, we'll talk about racial microaggressions. But just to give you a little bit about microaggressions, the person who coined this term is Chester Pierce. He was a Harvard psychiatrist and also a professor in the College of Education. Okay? So, and Sue elaborated a little bit more on Dr. Pierce's definition. My work expands it a little bit more, but Dr. Sue talks about these micro insults, these micro assaults, and micro invalidations. Okay? The other thing, in my work, what we do is we try to talk about the intersectionality of racial microaggressions. So you don't just see me as a man, or you see me as a black man. Okay? And I know my time is short, so here's a few examples. I'll read one. Most often when Asian Americans, and this is from many studies, most often Asian Americans and Latinos always are treated as if this is not their home. People kind of force them out. Where are you from? And they keep asking, it's okay to ask, you know, like I'm from Chicago, I love Chicago. I'm a proud Chicagoan. But nobody tries to force me back to Africa, all right? And that's how Latinos and Asians often feel. There's some others, but we don't have much time. But oftentimes when I stay up at night, I dream, and this was what happened to be one of my dreams from last night that I want to share with you.
So you're not good at golf, but you're white.
People of color have to deal with racial microaggressions every single day. So microaggressions are those little unintentional insults that basically see people of color as stereotypes, which got me thinking, what if white people had to deal with racial microaggressions?
So like, where are you from?
No, like, where are you really from?
Why do you have an accent? Like a Swedish accent.
You know, your English is really, really good. It's like I can't even tell you have an accent or anything.
I don't have an accent.
No, that's what I'm saying.
You don't speak Gaelic?
You don't speak German?
Can you say a curse word in European?
You know, like, what does that even mean?
Hey Connor, you know about NASCAR stuff, right? Can you take a look at this?
Can you teach me how to line dance?
Play the banjo?
Act entitled in the supermarket. I love white food. No real flavor to it. Never an upset tummy.
You're so exotic.
How do you get your hair like that? I love how it's so limp.
Ew, why does it feel like that? Oh my God, so it just does that?
No, you are really pretty for a white girl.
Your eyes are so round, like this.
You know who you look like? Kenny Chesney.
Zach Braff.
Emma Stone.
Rachel Maddow.
My friend Chad. Maybe you know him, because he's white too.
No, Emma Watson.
Not Macklemore. What's the other guy?
No, is it Emma Thompson?
It's C-H-A-D, like Chad.
One of the Emmas. You look like an Emma.
You know who you look like? I bet you hear this all the time. Jeffrey Dahmer.
How does it feel to be the token white guy in the office?
Hey, Connor, can we get a white perspective on this?
I love everything about white culture. You guys are like so fun.
What do you mean you don't listen to Creed? You're white.
You've never tried meth. But you're white.
You don't act like a normal white person.
You're not really white, though.
You're not really white.
I'm whiter than you are.
So, did all your ancestors own slaves?
No, but of course he wishes that he could still own slaves. That's a part of his culture.
Bryce, back me up on this one. The thing you have to understand about white
No,
culture
I
is
went
that
to
white
an
people are...
historically white college, so
Okay,
I know about
but I
white culture.
backpacked
Okay,
in
was
Europe.
So can you say how ridiculous this was? I know. Story of my life. If you've ever experienced microaggressions because of your race, gender, sexuality, or body type, go ahead and vent about it in the comments.
Can you teach me how to like take a really popular rap song and like make it a ukulele song? It's so cool. I think it's so cool how you guys do that.
These are some of the mundane kind of things that we talk about. So, and there's intensities, right? So these are the things that makes you sick and tired of hearing it over and over and over again. So I often get, you know who you remind me of? And I know what they're going. Mike Tyson. That means I need to lose weight too. Yeah, I'm like, so couldn't it have been a little bit more attractive black male? I mean, couldn't it have been Denzel Washington? But it's always Mike Tyson, right? But this, they make it humorous so we can understand how prevalent it is, all right? And those things happen all the time. And again, there's levels of intensity. And some of the things in my research, we've shown how it can go overboard because microaggressions play in on stereotypes that people hold. So we did a national study, and you can see some of the institutions: Harvard, Berkeley, Illinois, Michigan State, Stanford. We had 30, the population that we're dealing with for this study is 36. We had well over 300 participants in the study. This is just a black male sample that we talked about. I just want to give you a couple of the quotes. This is from a Harvard student. He says, on freshman week last year, I was walking around the campus just to look at it because I hadn't been up here since 6th grade. I was just looking at what the buildings looked like, and I was stopped by one of the HUPD officers, and he asked me who was I and why was I here. I told him I was a freshman looking around. He asked me to show ID, which I did, and then he said, okay, be more careful next time, and drove off. What's the message? What's the message there?
That he was doing something wrong.
And you're not welcome. You're not welcome here. Your body, your presence doesn't belong on this campus. That happens over and over and over again. Not just from the police officers, from secretaries, from professors, from people who go into departments to ask questions and they look at you like you're supposed to be delivering goods, treat your parents or you like you're the janitor. Can you wipe this up? We made a spill, right? So those are the type of microaggressions that can go on and on for not just students of color, faculty and administrators of color. I'm always told I'm a coach, no matter where I go. And I tell them I'm a professor. So what sport do you coach? I just told you I'm a professor, right? So they can't see me beyond an athletic stereotype, okay? So what we have here for you to do as people who are part of social change, social action, is to act, respond, see these racial microaggressions in ways that you might not have seen them before. So what can institutions do? They need to address the historic relationship. They need to increase structural diversity. They need to engage the perceptions of attitudes that operate across the campus in all levels. They also need to deal with the social and behavioral climate that's in the classroom. We had one student who was walking across the through the hallway. Professor comes out of her room, her classroom, and had her, actually it was her office, had her purse on her desk. She looked at him and said, oh, I need to go lock my office. I left my purse. She said it out loud. She didn't just think it, she just blurted it out. But she looked at him, it reminded her, I gotta lock my purse out. All right? So those are the type of things. So now that leaves him, whether it was intentional or not, it leaves him feeling like I'm the reason that made you think that your purse could get stolen, right? And as you saw with I went through it kind of quickly, some things are very unconscious. Some are conscious, microaggressions, the micro insults and invalidations. Some are very conscious. So, some of the things that you might want to look at as questions here are what mechanisms and structures are needed for institutional control, and that's what it is, institutional control, to recognize, record, respond, and reduce microaggressions on campus. If you don't have it, how can you put it in place? Based on the personal example I gave you, if a colleague approached you or a student of color approached you and said, this experience happened to me, how would you respond? And finally, what is a common microaggression at Salt Lake Community College? And I'm going to give you one in closing. This happened to me, and it was part of the basket one. I was a high school student, and sitting about where this young lady is sitting here with the Life's Greatest Secret book in front of her. And a young man behind me balled up a piece of paper, shot the paper at the wastebasket, and missed. The instructor's desk was right here. And he asked the young lady here, will she pick up the piece of paper and throw it away for her? She said, what do I look like? Really? And everyone was shocked. The professor was frozen. She didn't know how to respond, but everybody looked at me, right? So the racial microaggression was elicited. She might not have been talking about me. Everybody looked at me, but they were frozen, just like you're frozen and silent right now, all right? So what do we do in the moment? That's why I love that one show on ABC, What Would You Do? What would you do if a student of color, a faculty of color, administrator of color came to you and said, any of these things that happened to me, you're my friend, what do I do? What will Salt Lake Community College do? Thank you.